Talking about James Brown, this is Getting the Record Straight. I'm Rob Bell. This is the Black Rock and Soul segment or edition. Please subscribe. Please share it. Please like it. Even if you don't, help a brother out. Talking about who I consider to be the most important individual in rock and roll history. And frankly, in modern music. Well, he's one of them. He's probably one of three in terms if you want to look at music as a whole. I mean, it's him. It's Miles Davis, and a couple others who Ray Charles probably. Anyway, I would if I looked at the top 5 to 10, Brown is well, like I said, in terms of popular music, in terms of rock and roll, in terms of soul music, those genres, it's Brown who is the singular guy who his impact was just immense. And when we talk about funk and funky music, that is still relevant and important and really. Again, when we talk about dance music, upbeat music, that's really what defines it. Is it funky or not? That's what you know, that's what you have to figure out. So we talked about his originality, his authenticity as a performer. He's the standard bearer. But there's even more to Brown. Again, when you talk about that whole approach as a percussive approach to rhythm and really the entire band, because he had the horn section and everything, but, looking at that as all the instruments as really percussion instruments are really what was at the root of changing and the dynamic approach that he took. I tend to kind of get annoyed with Rolling Stone, but probably the best article I ever read about James Brown came out of Rolling Stone, where it was called Nuclear Soul, and I really think that was a great way of describing, what was going on with James Brown. But yeah, he definitely revolutionized music. There's no question about that, and was the standard for performance artistry. Not just running around the stage, just making noise and trying to just trying to attract attention, if you will, and trying to stay busy on stage. That's one thing, but this was actual artistry that James was putting down, and not a whole lot of people have been able to capture or duplicate that or measure up, if you will. And I think it's important to really understand too with James as a businessman, as someone who was very cognizant of owning his own material, of he started owned record stations, his own record label, and that also, particularly as an African American, a black man in the United States, we're talking about someone whose career started in the late '50s, and of course blossomed in the mid '60s, and well, actually all throughout the '60s. So he had that kind of that longevity. He had a good 10, 15-year run, and of course his music has just stood the test of time. And just really, that's another aspect of James Brown that's important and historical, because not only black artists, but very few artists were as in tune, if you excuse that pun, with what was going on from a business perspective. Again, particularly in those early days in the '60s. He is. I think he is not thought of as much, for his lyricism, his lyrics, but he certainly has coined some of the great phrases And I would argue the most important phrase and lyric of the 1960s, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." I can't even begin to say how important that was at that time in this country, in the world. To say it loud, you're black and you're proud. First of all, within many black African American communities at that time, you didn't call yourself black. That was thought of as distasteful. That was um, that was something that could cause a fight. Calling someone black, that was an insult. And to say it loud, "I'm black and I'm proud," that was a revolutionary phrase. But it wasn't just that. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door, I'll get it myself. These were, important concepts at that particular time for an artist to take and espouse, especially, again, a black man. Um, I would say, though, that, I remember having a debate one time with a sister who was saying, well, I said that Getting on the Good Foot was a masterpiece. And she was like, nah. And I know it's kind of difficult to assign that term to a record that's basically a dance record. And well, it is a dance record, up tempo kind of dance record. And I get that. But I still think Get on the Good Foot and There Was a Time. When you listen to them, they're just two of the most remarkable records, and I'll concede, well, maybe they're not masterpieces. If a masterpiece is a 10, well, these were certainly nines. These are certainly great records, great dance records. And the arrangements on these, they're just phenomenal and still are. They still rank as just really great, great records. And James Brown. So, when you talk about, I don't think you can talk intelligently about modern music, certainly modern dance music, um, soul music, rock and roll, and not talk about the influence of James Brown. It's not right. It's not right if you don't. James Brown, one of the kings of rock and roll, in my mind. Thank you. Take care. This has been Getting the Record Straight, the Black Rock and Soul segment. I'm going to do another segment soon on Motown, and that will pretty much conclude the 60s, and then we'll go into that great era of the 70s. Take care.